It is 6:53, Michael Cohen, 1320 WILS. So a new study looking at our bosses and finding that narcissists, those that have this narcissistic personality disorder, they tend to rise to the top to talk about what that means and how to deal with bosses that have this quality. We're joined by Neena Newberry. She's a leadership expert. Online, it's newberrysolutions.com, where there are resources and coaching designed to help women achieve business results through purpose, presence, and power. Neena, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So
excited to be here.
Great having you here. You focus specifically on women, then?
I focus on high-performing leaders, but I do have a niche focus on women as well. So about 40% of my clients are men.
40 are men, okay. And the issue of leadership, I mean, the fact that narcissists seem to have this edge on getting to leadership positions, what do you take away from a study like that?
Well, I think when people get labeled in a category like narcissism, you can tend to go immediately to the negative aspect, and so I think there are pros and cons there, because certainly some of the qualities that they're bringing to the table is they're good at negotiating and forming alliances, and definitely can bring some confidence and charisma to the table. Mm-hmm. But by the same token, because they are in higher level leadership positions, they're probably in a better position to be able to manipulate and affect things as well.
And so do you view that as a positive trait on the whole, or is that something that people should be wary of, this narcissism?
Well, I think we all have a degree of narcissism, right? That self-centered focus in terms of zeroing in on what's important to us and trying to drive and influence things that matter to us. I think it ends up driving some focus. I think it's one of those elements where if it's taken to an extreme, that's when you really need to watch for it.
Mm-hmm. And when you're dealing with a narcissist, because apparently these are the personalities that tend to get leadership positions, or having at least somewhat of a personality of this kind. Is there any way to approach someone with this quality that can help you rise and maybe make a relationship work?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I would say is to really think about what's important to them. So if you're looking at the world through their lens, what are their specific goals? What are they trying to achieve? And looking at where you may have some common ground there. Because as much as you can zero in on where there's commonality versus differences and showing how you're aligned with that, that shifts the language, that shifts the actions that you take as well. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I would say is to be able to separate what's personal versus just the personality. So a lot of times we can fall into the trap of feeling like someone's behavior is all about us, mm-hmm. Versus about who they are. So, you can become triggered and, have certain behaviors that aren't really putting you in the best light because you're taking things personally. So being able to separate it can do a whole lot to keep you centered and grounded and not thrown off your game.
Yeah, because apparently some of the qualities of these of a narcissist include self-serving and considerate nature. That's the researcher's language. I'm talking to Neena Newberry, newberrysolutions.com. Well, what is your own background, Neena, in business?
So I worked at Deloitte in consulting for 14 years and was also an HR executive. And through the course of my career, I have worked with Fortune 500 companies to help them develop strategies and improve their operations, and then also develop stronger leaders.
And when you're working with clients, what would you say is typically the kind of issue they come to you for help with?
Well, so I am currently working with several different companies to coach their leaders to be much more effective. And so it's typically helping them either step into a role that they're in today, mm-hmm. and do a more effective job at it, or it's to help them get ready for that next level.
When you say more effective, what do you mean effective in terms of dealing with their employees or with their own career and trying to move up?
It's both things, actually. So the higher you go up, the more you've got to get done with and through other people. So there's an element of, really making the highest and best use of their talent and skills for the organization. It's also trying to affect bigger changes. And it's also helping them achieve their individual career goals. Mm-hmm. So it's all of those things.
That dynamic, when you're beginning to rely more and more on other people doing work as you're moving up. What is the trick to doing that, as you say, effectively?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is to recognize the impact that you have on others. And some people are much more self-aware than others. So when I think about executive coaching that I work with clients, typically on the front end of that, we're getting some feedback from other people in terms of what's this individual's leadership style look like, and what are the kinds of results that they're getting, and how should they possibly do things differently to bring more people on board.
When you say you said some are not aware of the impact they have on others, do you mean like negative impact? They upset people, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so let me give you an example. A lot of people that are high performers are very focused and have a strong drive for results. And for someone who is working with an individual like that, how it can feel to them is, well, maybe this person doesn't really care about me as an individual. They're so focused on the goal. They don't care how many hours I'm working or, the fact that our team's about to burn out, right? They're just focused on the specific goals. Now, that particular leader might not be aware that that's how they're coming off because they feel like they're doing the right thing for the business.
So how do you just tell them to kind of kick back a little bit or step away, or how do you coach them to chill out a little bit?
Well, a lot of it is first helping them understand, here are the consequences of the choices that you're making today. If your team's actually going to burn out in the process, you're actually not going to be able to achieve the results that you want. So there's an element of bringing it back to what's important to them, what they're trying to achieve, helping them see some different alternatives to getting there. And also, I think the other piece is recognizing that the relationships are just as important.
Does that message always get through?
It gets through a lot of the time, and again, a lot of it ends up tying back to, okay, what are the consequences, and understanding how you come across to people, because people have a hard time giving candid feedback. And the higher up you go in an organization, there are fewer people that are going to give you that candid feedback. And
as an outsider, you're the one that comes in and gives them that brutal truth?
Well, I do that some of the time, but the other thing I do is I coach their bosses to do it because I don't want that piece to be outsourced because some of those messages need to be delivered by the people that work with them internally.
Really? Sometimes the bosses themselves hesitate to give that message?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are concerned about conflict or, if this is a high performer and if I bring this up, might we lose this person? There's all this concern about what might happen.
It's Neena Newberry, leadership expert. Find her online at newberrysolutions.com. That is newberrysolutions.com. Neena, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And that is it for a Monday evening. We're back tomorrow at 6 p.m. on 1320 WILS. I'm Michael Cohen, producer Mike Peterson with us this evening. Join us again tomorrow, 6, right here, 1320 WILS.